Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner, you can call me Pierce. Today we are covering all of the Week 2 action from the 2027 season of the Pro Football Sim over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So as always, we'll begin today's show with the stats and summaries from all of the Week 2 games. Still a full slate of 16 games with all teams playing. We will conclude that with my selections for the players of the week. We'll do a quick injury update, and then we'll go on to our feature this week, which I'm calling Real or Not Real. Basically, we're going to look at all of the teams who have either won or lost twice. We're going to look at some of those teams, actually, and we're going to see, based on my analysis and my opinion, if those results are real, which is to say indicative of how the rest of the season is going to go, or if they are not real, if there are other factors at play, and I think the teams will either still have to fight for wins if they started 2-0, or teams can recover and be a part of, maybe a postseason conversation if they started 0-2. And then we'll conclude everything with our preview for Week 3. So thanks for stopping by, and let's go ahead and get started. On Thursday night, the Indianapolis Colts defeated the Cleveland Browns 28-27. The Colts started off the first quarter with a blocked punt that set up Joaquin Centeno for an 11-yard touchdown run and an early lead. In the second quarter, the Colts would find the end zone again. J.P. Mitchell had a 38-yard carry to set Centeno up for another touchdown. This one a 17-yard run to pay dirt, made it 14-3 at that point. Later in the third quarter, the Browns would draw equal. Ryan Wilson would have a 22-yard run, and then Anku a 13-yard rushing touchdown for the quarterback. Ryan Johnson would run in the 2-point conversion, which would tie things up at 14. Then later still in the third quarter, Cleveland would take the lead for the first time on a 61-yard field goal from Abel Chapa. He would complete 4 on the day. That made it 17-14 at that point, but the Colts would respond. Mitchell breaking off a 20-yard run, and then David Paul finding his tight end Enrique Rodriguez for a 16-yard gain, and then finding his wide receiver Daly for a 3-yard touchdown to put the Colts back on top 21-17. Cleveland drove down to the Indianapolis 9-yard line, but Anku threw a back-breaking interception on a 3rd and 1 to Elijah Ellis to prevent the Browns from getting any points there. But in the fourth quarter, the Browns would get another drive and take the lead. Anku to Trenton Adam for a 22-yard gain that set up Ryan Wilson for a 6-yard touchdown run to put the Browns back on top 24-21. But it would not last. The Colts got a 40-yard kickoff return, and then 6 plays later, Centeno completed his third touchdown of the game. This one from 23 yards out, to put the Colts back on top 28-24. On the next drive, Dominic Anku carried the ball for a big 45-yard gain, but the drive stalled from there, and the Browns were stuck settling for yet another field goal, cutting the lead to 1 with 5:17 to go in the game. Browns would get the ball back with less than 4 to go. Anku hit his running back Clark for a 20-yard gain, but then Anku would throw his second pick of the game on a screen pass. It was picked off by defensive end Hunter Sue, and the Colts were able to mostly run down the clock. And then with under a minute left, they punted and they downed the ball at the Browns' 5-yard line. And then Browns ran out of time a couple of plays later, and the Colts escaped with the 1-point victory. David Paul was 14 of 19 for 124 yards and a touchdown. No giveaways, so good game manager game from Paul. Centeno, of course, with those 3 touchdowns. And then Ryan Herget had 4 passes defended, and Elijah Ellis recovered a fumble and had that big red zone interception. Anku had 2 interceptions, but otherwise a good game. 22 of 34, 254 passing yards, 72 rushing yards in the score. Ryan Wilson had a rushing touchdown as well. Abel Chapa was 4 of 5, including that massive 61-yarder. But ultimately, the Browns do fall just short against the Colts. Again, 28-27 is your final there. Moving now to the Sunday games, the Ravens upset the Panthers by a score of 21-20. Carolina scored first. Kelvin Dupree pulling off a 34-yard run, setting up Link for his touchdown pass to Russell Barnes from 6 yards out to open the scoring. Then later in the first, Link was at it again. He had 5 straight completions for a total of 62 yards gained, including a second touchdown pass to his tight end Tice, making it a 14-0 lead. Carolina was driving again. In the second quarter, they got down to the Baltimore 29 before an interception by Joe Perez ended that drive. Then Carolina again, before halftime, drove to the Baltimore 26-yard line, but another interception, this one by Casillas, again, denied them any points, although they still had the lead at the half. And then in the third quarter, Carolina yet again drove to the Baltimore 27-yard line. And this time, Dakota Link completed his pass to Tice for a 13-yard gain. Tice was hit by Joshua Martin. He fumbled, and Baltimore recovered. So yet again, a third consecutive trip inside the Baltimore 30-yard line yielded no points for the Panthers. And then Baltimore, in response, Livingston ran for a 28-yard. He caught a 28-yard pass. He completed a 21-yard run. And then ultimately, it was DeAndre Wieters who finished that drive with a 9-yard touchdown catch. Baltimore scored a 2-point conversion and made it 14-11. In the fourth quarter, Link threw another interception to Perez, this time deep in his own territory. That led to a Livingston touchdown run. Baltimore getting their first lead. That was 21-17 at that point, with 7:26 left to go in the game. Carolina got stopped on their next drive, but then Savage threw his first and only interception of the game to defensive end Vince Gresham, of all people. And Carolina got great field position, but they went 3 and out from where they had the ball, were forced to kick a field goal, so they were still down 21-20, with 3:08 left. Defense did force Baltimore to go 3 and out. Carolina got the ball back one last time. They drove to midfield before Link's 5th and final interception to Casillas ended their comeback hopes once and for all. So Brandon Savage was 22 of 41 for 250 yards, a touchdown, and a pick in the win. Dakota Link, 272 yards on 29 completions, 2 touchdowns, but 5 interceptions, including one in his own territory that led to a Ravens Ravens touchdown, and then 2 deep in Ravens territory, denying the Panthers points. Kelvin Dupree had 125 total yards on 18 touches. Russell Barnes, 89 yards and a touchdown. But again, Perez and Casillas with a pair of interceptions each, making the difference in the Ravens' upset win. 21-20 is your final. The Commanders came back and defeated the Eagles with a big second half push, 44-30. After trading some early field goals, Cecilio Fuentes heated up for the Eagles. He went 7 for 7 on a drive for 76 passing yards, including a 3-yard touchdown to Gilberto Silva, putting the Eagles on top 10-6 at that point. The Commanders would respond. Morrison, 4 completions of his own for 76 passing yards on his stat line. That drive ended with a Wayne Hughes 7-yard touchdown run, putting the Commanders on top. Philadelphia then drove to the Washington 25, but Fuentes threw an interception to safety Patrick Collins to end that drive. But the Eagles defense got a stop. Fuentes again drove them down into Washington territory. This time completed a second touchdown pass to Silva for 12 yards out. They missed the extra point, so it was 16-13 Washington's advantage at that point. Washington, on the next drive, Morrison hit Sebastian Moore for 26. They drove down to the Eagles' 18-yard line, but Nate Simeon came through with a big interception for the Eagles to end the half and keep the game close. Going out of the third quarter, on the very first play of the third quarter, Fuentes found Gilberto Silva for a 54-yard gain. They could not cover him all day, and that led to a touchdown pass to Rashawn Alsadek, making it 23-13, Eagles adding to their lead. They would do so again after a Morrison interception by Billy Wright. Fuentes to Silva for a third time, 34 yards out, and it was 30-13, Eagles leading at that point. Washington, though, would finally respond. Chad Dolis broke off a 50-yard run. Morrison would connect with Ronnie Ritter for a 22-yard gain and then a 4-yard touchdown, cutting the lead to 30-20. And then after a defensive stop, another big run, this time by Wayne Hughes, a 50-yard run for him, capping that with his own 3-yard touchdown, bringing Washington to within 3 points. And then they kicked off, and Leonard Vaughn fumbled on the kick return, and Washington recovered. They immediately turned that into another touchdown, Morrison throwing to Hughes for 6 yards, and Commanders had the lead 34-30 after those 3 quick touchdowns. Philadelphia then drove into Washington territory looking to retake the lead, but Alsadek fumbled after a catch and run, fumble forced by Collins again. Washington recovered. Then in the fourth quarter, Washington would add to their lead, Morrison finding JaVale McGee for big gains of 22 and 35 through the air, and then ending with a touchdown pass to Raymond Stelly from a yard out, making it 44-30. Eagles drove into Washington territory one final time. They were stopped on fourth down with about a minute and a half to go. So Washington scoring the last 31 points of this game to turn a deficit into a big win. Cecilio Fuentes still had a big day, 33 of 43, 479 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns. 3 of those to Gilberto Silva, who had 189 yards receiving. Mark Soto had a tackle and a half. Phil Calhoun had 2 sacks for the Commanders. And Jerome Morrison, again, 514 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks for him. The Vikings go up to 2-0 with a victory over the Lions, 32-20. Early in the first quarter, a Vikings punt pinned the Lions at their own 10-yard line, and then defensive tackle Neil Henry took over. He sacked Randall Hansen back inside the 5, and then in the next play, Lions handed off to Tremaine Craig, and Henry was there again, tackled him in the end zone for a safety, and Minnesota had the early 2-0 lead. Detroit, though, would get the ball back after free kicking away, and Randall Hansen had a 62-yard rushing touchdown to put Detroit into the lead. Minnesota, though, would respond. Marcus Dade had his own great carry, a 58-yard run. That set up a touchdown from Sinnock to Velasco from 7 yards out, putting Minnesota back on top. In the second quarter, though, the pendulum would swing right back. Detroit drove 82 yards in 12 plays. 5 of those completions from Hansen to Tony Sherman for a total of 46 yards, including the final 2 yards on a touchdown pass. Lions were back in the lead. Minnesota, though, would put together a 72-yard drive, ending with a Marcus Dade touchdown run from 12 yards out, putting Minnesota back on top by 2. In the third quarter, after a Detroit field goal, Sinnock threw a completion to Marcus Dade for a big 20-yard gain, and then completion to Tarpley for 16 and a 4-yard touchdown. Minnesota went up 22-17. Marcus Dade was stuffed on a 2-point conversion attempt, so the lead stayed at 5. Going out of the fourth quarter, Minnesota still up 5, 25-20, with 4:21 to go in the game, and they ran the 4-minute offense to perfection, a 10-play drive, including 3 third-down conversions, and then they capped it off with a Zach Gratterall 2-yard touchdown run in the final minute. So they ran the clock completely out, then scored one more touchdown at the very end to cap it and win this game. Randall Hansen, 241 yards and a touchdown. He ended the day with 49 rushing yards, even though he had a 62-yard touchdown. Outside of that one great run, 8 carries for negative yards and a fumble. Tony Sherman had a great day, 9 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown. David Sparacino had 4 tackles for loss. Christian Sinnock, 2 touchdowns. Marcus Dade, 150 total yards from scrimmage on 25 touches and a score for him. And then Neil Henry with the big day, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and that safety at the top of the day. And the Vikings, again, get a big division win, 32-20 over the Lions. Then on Sunday night, it was the Peter London game with the Cowboys victorious over the Broncos, 32-19. In the second quarter, it was 6-3, and Denver was pinned at their own 3-yard line after a great Cowboys punt. Eric Smith was hit in the end zone and actually fumbled. Thankfully for the Broncos, Stephen Labissiere was there to fall on the ball, so the Cowboys just got 2 points out of it on the safety. They led 8-3 at that point. And then near the end of that same second quarter, Wayne Murray had interceptions on back-to-back Denver possessions to end the half. Both of them happening near midfield, too. So getting close to scoring range, and then both of those drives ending on Murray interceptions. Still 8-3 and entering the half. We finally got our first touchdown in the third quarter. Eric Smith had a great 42-yard run that set up a touchdown pass from Wayne Murray to his tight end Carmine Rose from 11 yards out. That made it 12-11 was the score at that point. Then in the fourth quarter, Denver had a punt blocked, leading to a Chris Brooks touchdown run from 4 yards out for Dallas, increasing their lead. Increasing the lead to 21-12 at that point. Denver would respond with Wayne Murray finding Labissiere for a 24-yard gain, and then Eric Smith running it in from 39 yards out for the big touchdown. The extra point made it 21-19 at that point. Dallas then drove down to the Broncos' 7-yard line, but on 3rd and 4, Peter London was picked by George Kent, and the lead remained at 2. But after that, Dallas sacked Wayne Murray in the end zone for another safety, 2 more points, and possession. And then Dallas cornerback Jason Smothers returned the free kick 87 yards, setting up a final touchdown from London to Christopher Lee from 7 yards out. That made it 30-19 with about 6 minutes to go. Denver went 3 and out and punted. Dallas ran some clock, and then Denver had the ball, but then the clock ran out on them, and they lost by 11. So a very bizarre game. We had 3 safeties. We had 2 blocked punts and 7 penalties. So not a great day for offense, a big day for defense and special teams. 3 safeties in a game is a record I don't think we're going to see broken anytime soon. Wayne Murray completed under 50% of his passes for 169 yards and had 2 picks. Eric Smith had a good day, 14 carries, 111 yards, and a touchdown, though we did have 1 fumble. Peter London completed 29 passes for 305 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. 149 receiving yards for Antonio Arellano on 10 catches. And ultimately, Dallas wins in prime time, Peter London beating his old team by a score of 32-19. And then a wild game on Monday night where the Chiefs came back to defeat the Jets by a final score of 31-24. Kansas City got into the red zone in their very first drive before a fumble by Giovanni Rosenberg caused by Gord Diallo ended that drive without points. The next drive, they got down to the Jets' 39-yard line, but this time it was Chop throwing an interception to linebacker Davis Covey that ended that drive, again without points. The Jets made a big move, converting a 4th and 10 from about midfield, Jeremiah West finding his tight end Josh Hawkins for a 14-yard gain on the play. And then West found Hawkins again for a 30-yard touchdown to go up 7-0. In the second quarter, the Jets would extend their lead, West finding Will Huber for a 23-yard gain, and then converted quarterback Russell Latimer rushing for a 21-yard touchdown to make it 14-0. Later, though, West would be intercepted by Benedict Luna. Luna would take the ball all the way back to the Jets' 11-yard line. Rosenberg got a repeat and got into the end zone this time from 2 yards out, putting the Chiefs on the board for the first time. But in the third quarter, the Jets would extend their lead. West would go 4 for 4 on a drive for 57 yards, setting up Nick Suarez for a 5-yard touchdown run and a 24-7 lead. Kansas City's comeback started, though, later in the third quarter. Dedrick Smith had a 29-yard run. David Chop added a 14-yard run, and then Chop found Ellswick in the end zone for a short touchdown pass, cutting the lead to 10. The Jets' offense started to do their part. They drove to the Chiefs' 22-yard line, but another interception by Benedict Luna gave the Chiefs the ball back and held the lead at 10. In the fourth quarter, the Chiefs would go 51 yards on a 9-play drive, ending with a Smith touchdown run, cutting the lead to 24-21. With 8:17 left, the Jets had another ballsy move. They went for it again on 4th down from about midfield. Jeremiah West was sacked, and they did not convert. Chiefs got a short field, and Chop completed passes to Smith for 16 and to his tight end Van Slyke for 14. Ultimately, Rosenberg had another touchdown run from 3 yards out, putting the Chiefs on top for the first time, 28-24. The Jets then went 3 and out. Chop connected with Ellswick again for a 25-yard gain, and the Chiefs converted a long field goal, making it 31-24 with 3:23 to go. But the Jets, on their final possession of the game, would make it interesting. Michael Elias pulled off a 42-yard run, getting the Jets onto the Chiefs side of the field. They drove all the way down to the Kansas City 11-yard line, but on 4th and 3, with just 32 seconds to go, Kendrick Mateo was stopped short on a 2-yard catch. The Chiefs took over on downs and ran the clock out to preserve the comeback victory, scoring the final 24 points of the game and winning on Monday night. David Chop was 21 of 34 for 247 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Benedict Luna, of course, had those 2 big interceptions as well as 4 pass breakups. Jeremiah West was 26 of 50, 311 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. And then Patrick Viola was everywhere for the defense, had some tackles for loss, recovered a fumble, and broke up 3 passes as well. So some standout plays all over. The Chiefs, though, win 31-24 on Monday night after the comeback. As for the rest of the Week 2 scoreboard, Miami blew out New England 63-7. Miami's running back Bowman had 17 carries, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Ryan Bowman, 50 yards receiving as well. Pittsburgh beat New Orleans 33-10 in our first ever international game. Morris was 15 of 23 for 173 passing yards and a passing touchdown. He also had 3 rushing touchdowns on 21 carries. Buffalo beat Cincinnati 37-10. Yusei Asensio was 31 of 50, 404 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 picks. Jacksonville clamped down on Tennessee, 19-3 is your final there. Rivera was 30 of 42 for 299 yards for the Jaguars. Atlanta beat Tampa Bay 15-6. Travis Kingery was 17 of 23 for the Buccaneers, 153 yards and 70 rushing yards on 14 carries. But he had 1 fumble and was unable to get into the end zone. The 1 touchdown of the day was Atlanta's Rashawn Lyons on a touchdown pass just before half, and that would prove to be enough in the 15-6 win. Houston put up 55 against San Francisco, a franchise record, finishing 55-24. Travis Neal got the start. He was 11 of 12, nearly perfect through the air, 143 passing yards, a passing touchdown, 29 carries, 146 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns to lead the Texans to the win. The Chargers beat up on Las Vegas 46-6 is your final there. Aguilera 13 of 22, 125 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 77 rushing yards on 7 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns. Harrison Rodriguez added 2 rushing touchdowns on 13 carries for 130 yards as well in the win. Green Bay beat Chicago 40-10. Joseph Garibay 29 of 35 for 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. The Rams blew out Seattle 56-17. Avila did Avila things, 49 completions on 61 attempts, 515 passing yards, and 7 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. And then the Giants beat Arizona 34-23. The Giants had acquired Jesse Knoll after completely cutting their starting quarterback from week 1. Knoll got injured in the 3rd quarter and was replaced by Paul McCullers-Sanders, who got his first regular season action as a Giant and as a pro. But the big story in New York was Franklin Riggins, who made the most of his 6 carries, going for 109 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, leading the Giants to the win. So with that said, here are my choices for players of the week. Obviously, Avila and his 7 touchdowns get mentioned here. Travis Neal, his near-perfect passing and 4 rushing touchdowns. Centeno for the Colts on Thursday night, 3 touchdowns for him. And Gilberto Silva for the Eagles, 3 touchdowns for him on 11 catches. Also want to call out Aguilera for 4 total touchdowns, 2 through the air and 2 on the ground. Ryan Bowman of Miami, 184 yards from scrimmage on 21 touches and 2 scores. And then Vontae Nebel of San Francisco had 12 carries for 87 rushing yards, a touchdown, and 6 catches for 116 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown as well. So a lot of big offensive performances, again, just like last week. We did also have some standouts on the defense. Neil Henry, that great game, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and a safety for the Vikings. William Blue of Arizona led everyone with 3.5 sacks on the week. Patrick Viola of the Jets with that fumble recovery and 3 pass breakups as a linebacker for the Jets. Benedict Luna, 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups for Kansas City, and Connor Hardison, 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery for the Green Bay Packers. So congratulations to all of those players being listed as my players of the week for week 2. A couple new names to note on the injury update. Rafael Caceres for the Denver Broncos hurt a hamstring. He'll be out for a couple of weeks. So big loss there for the Denver defense. Patriots continue to have bad injury luck. They lost a top corner, Robert Briggs. He'll be out for a good half of the season with that knee bruise. They are still missing Roosevelt Penn and Justin Irwin for the next game as well. Giants, as we mentioned, picked up Jesse Knoll and then lost him to a sprained thumb. He did not return in week 2, and he will miss week 3 as well. So we'll see if PMS gets his first ever start in the pros for the Giants. He would be the third starting quarterback for the Giants in 3 weeks, and their third different archetype, after having Scrambler Rudy Stokes in week 1 and then Jesse Knoll in week 2, going to the pocket guy PMS in week 3. If that's what they choose to do, we shall see. And then Luke Trahan, quarterback, converted to running back for Washington, had an ankle sprain. He will miss significant time as well. But some recoveries. Tyler Heredia, defensive end for the Lions, should be back next week. Big one for Jacksonville. Ryan Peterson has recovered, so they are no longer down both their starting running backs. Peterson should be able to return. And then defensive end Cordrea Kasmarski for the Giants, the 24-year-old former high draft pick, should be back for the Giants next week. So, as promised, our feature for today we are calling Real or Not Real. So we're going to look at 4 teams in each of these buckets, the undefeated bucket and the winless bucket. And we're going to say whether I think that performance is indicative of what is to come for the season, or if it's not real, it's a flash in the pan, and there's a lot more to be seen from this team in the remaining 16 weeks. I've got some graphics to go along with it, basically corresponding to both real or not real, and also to good or bad. So the first 2-0 team, and we're just going to take these alphabetically by category. First team we're going to look at 2-0 is Baltimore, who defeated Cleveland in the opener and Carolina at home in that 1-point upset. They're going to Tampa Bay next week. It's going to be a great game with Savage versus Kingery. But right now, the Ravens are 2-0, and I think that's real. And not just because they beat me. Savage has looked good, over 600 passing yards, couple of touchdowns, only 1 interception. But really also that running game with rookie James Livingston, who's making already a case for Rookie of the Year. And then the defense forcing turnovers. Really playing well on all parts, all facets of the game. They did have 2 home games to start, but Cleveland's not bad and Carolina is a favorite. So beating those 2 at the start says a lot. So yeah, I think this is real, and I think the Ravens are here to be a force in an AFC that is seeing a lot of tumult and a lot of unpredictability in terms of who is winning and who is struggling. Ravens are going to be a team to be dealt with, as indicated by their 2-0 start. The Texans are also 2-0. They won a road game in Indianapolis and then won their home opener at San Francisco. So they've played some, weaker competition in those first 2 weeks. But coming into this season, the Texans had only scored 35 points or more once in franchise history. And they've now done it in back-to-back weeks. They've scored 102 points in 2 weeks with 11 rushing touchdowns. So Again, we will see. They've got Cincinnati again, so they've got an easier slate to start. Could easily go 3-0. I'm holding out just because of their level of competition. I don't know if they're going to continue to put up hundreds of rushing yards and 40 points on teams with better rushing defenses. But it's an incredibly impressive start. They've done what they are supposed to do, which is beating up on teams where they have an advantage and logging the wins where they can, and leaning on what they can do well, which is running the ball. We'll see how their record holds up through the rest of the season. So I'm only holding because of their level of opposition, but it is impressive what they've been able to do so far. The Jaguars are 2-0. They have defeated Cincinnati and Tennessee. Next week they are going to be at Minnesota, which I think is going to be very telling for them. Again, we've had weaker competition in the first two games. We've had home games, and now we're going to go on the road into a much more challenging team. I do like Jacksonville's roster makeup. I like what they're capable of. I don't know that they're going to experience the exact same level of success as they enter kind of the meat of their schedule. Minnesota will be a great test, as we'll talk about in just a second, but I'm not convinced yet. I'm not convinced that this is how they're going to look. It's possible that we could look back at the beginning and say, oh yeah, they had an easier schedule or whatnot. I'm perfectly happy to be proven wrong. Again, this is a prediction game, so you gotta make takes and stick with them. So I'm not convinced of the Jaguars yet, at least certainly not the same way I am of the Ravens or the Texans. But we will see, because the next team they play is Minnesota, who is 2-0 and is coming off 2 road victories versus the Rams and Detroit. Now, teams, a lot of users were actually pretty nonchalant about their Thursday night win to kick off the season with the Rams. People were saying, oh yeah, the Rams are already downhill. Vikings are on the way up. Sure, not surprised. But I think this victory over Detroit has really shown something. That's 2 games on the road against strong competition. They're about to face another 2-0 team. Sinak has passed for over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns with just 1 interception. Marcus Dade has over 280 yards from scrimmage. The team is +3 in turnover ratio after just 2 weeks. I think this is real, and I think they're going to prove it yet again in their home opener against Jacksonville. So I'm very excited to see what the Vikings can do in a very tough division. Beating Detroit was certainly a good start, and we'll see what Simak can do now that he has gotten his big payday, his $64 million 4-year extension, and he's ready to. He got paid like a franchise quarterback. It's exciting to see him playing like a franchise quarterback. Okay, now on to the slightly less fun topic of the 0-2 teams. And sadly, we are going to start with my own Cleveland Browns, who lost to Baltimore and then lost by 1 point to Indianapolis, and are about to go play the New York Jets. So 2 road games to start, and so at least 1 game over a team that I've just been talking up, the Baltimore Ravens. Having said that, I think 0-2 might sadly be indicative of the way this season has gone. Mostly because of the turnover situation. NQ has thrown 5 interceptions in 2 games, and particularly bad ones, like red zone interceptions, things that really denied the team points that could have been difference makers. Certainly against Indianapolis, throwing a pick at the 9-yard line and then losing by 1. That was pretty tough. But also on the defensive side, they have 0 takeaways. Through 2 games, the defense has not produced a turnover. So there's a big negative there. Defense has allowed over 350 rushing yards in 2 games. So yeah, it's just tough. They're not getting the big plays. They're giving up too many turnovers. We'll see if they can right the ship, finally getting a home game against the Jets, who are also 0-2. We'll talk about them in just a minute. But it's been a rough start for the Browns. It seems like that might continue in the near future. The next team to talk about is the Denver Broncos. They are 0-2 after losing at Tennessee and then to Dallas in the Peter London game, and then they're going to be hosting Carolina come next week. This again, you see a wide gamut of reactions to this. Some saying that Denver leaned hard into their rebuild, moving their starting quarterback and multiple draft picks to trade up and take Cooper Williams. But there are some bright spots as well. Eric Smith has over 280 rushing yards. So it's not terrible, but Wayne Murray has not been incredibly inspiring as a bridge quarterback. And the schedule ahead is just incredibly rough. They host Carolina, then they host Pittsburgh, then they got to go to Kansas City, then they got to go to Miami. So it does not get any easier. And they could come out of this starting 6 games with 2 wins or maybe even fewer. So I think this team can compete. I think this is still a good team. It's not bottom of the barrel. I don't think, I think they're going to have a decent record. It's just they're not at the level they were, and they are playing a schedule that suggests that is of the team that they used to be when they had their starting quarterback and some other starters. So it's a tough schedule, and I think they're going to have a rough go of it. I'm on the fence because I think this is still a very good team, and other users should underestimate Denver at their own peril. But it is going to be pretty tough for a while, it seems. Then the New Orleans Saints are 0-2 after losing to Carolina, and then at Pittsburgh, they're going to go to New York to face the Giants, which could be a chance to right the ship with the way the Giants quarterback situation is looking right now. But Saints have not looked great. Landrum has passed for just over 300 yards total across 2 weeks, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The defense has a handful of really big stars like Arthur Madrano at cornerback and Michael Dyson at edge. But just doesn't have a full cohesive unit that's able to make the big stops when they need to. So unfortunately, I think 0-2 is a little more indicative of how the season might be going. Again, I think that the Giants is a chance to maybe get an early win. But I would need to see Landrum be a little more consistent, make some more big plays and scores, and then the defense step up a little bit as well. Then finally, we have the New York Jets, who are 0-2 after some huge offensive performances, but also very bad defensive performances at San Francisco, and then blowing that lead to Kansas City. They're going to go to Cleveland to face another 0-2 team in the Browns. And I think that could be very good for them. I think, unlike the Saints, I don't think 0-2 is quite indicative of where the Jets are as a team. Jeremiah West has 5 touchdowns. He also has 5 interceptions. Unfortunate. There are some defensive concerns with that roster, especially after not having guys like DeGirolamo like they used to have. And again, ultimately a tough opening slate. San Francisco really surprised in week 1, and then Kansas City was very tough, coming back and winning like that on Monday night. So we'll see what they can do at Cleveland. It's a chance to get a win, even on the road, against another 0-2 team, and try to right the ship and stay alive in, again, what looks to maybe be a very competitive AFC. I think they can do it. I don't think 0-2 is the end of the road by any means for them. We will see what will happen in the weeks to come. So, in the week to come, specifically week 3, as I said, Thursday night is going to be Baltimore at Tampa Bay, so Savage at Kingery should be a great one there. Baltimore a chance to build on that 2-0 start. At noon, we have Miami at Pittsburgh, a big AFC matchup there. And then our game of the week is Jacksonville at Minnesota. As I mentioned, 2-0 teams looking to continually establish the legitimacy of that start and build on that momentum. In the afternoon, we have the Chargers at Kansas City, a big AFC West game. I think most of those games are going to be big games in that very tough division. So the Chargers coming off some big early wins, including Miami. Now get to go to Kansas City and look for yet another crucial victory. Then in the afternoon, Carolina at Denver, and the Dakota Link game. For those who have still not forgotten the mega trade, I know I haven't. Carolina looking to capitalize and recover against the Denver squad, but they will be up in Mile High. On Sunday night, we have New England going to Buffalo to face the Bills, an AFC East clash there. And then on Monday night, 2 NFC powerhouses go head-to-head with the Rams traveling to Washington to face on the Commanders and see if they can make their presence known, the Rams, as still a contender in the NFC by knocking off the Commanders, who have started 2-0 yet again. So those are the games coming up for Week 3. Hope you will stick around and watch those with us. That is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL Show. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. And as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.